the beginning of the end is near. One glance at the king's face, and you know something terrible has happened. JiYoung is hurt. This time, this isn't just another cooking obstacle. This is JiYoung's greatest trial yet, the very challenge that could decide her fate, since she first time traveled into the Joseon era, in Bon Appétit, Your Majesty. Thankfully, the king can be seen giving her what looks like a promise ring. Meanwhile, who else cheered with glee when the king headbutted the envoy? This was the highlight of the last episode, as the envoy had it coming with his greedy self. As expected, the Queen Dowager saved the day, temporarily halting Prince Joseon's plans with the envoy. However, Machu is unrelenting in her pursuit of eliminating JiYoung, even if that means betraying the king. It's no news that Machu was planted by Prince Joseon to undermine the king, driving him to fury. However, after spending some time with the king, Machu began to develop feelings for him. This was why Prince Joseon was surprised when she mentioned using the king's younger half-brother as bait to trap JiYoung. He even mentioned thinking that she'd someday betray him, because he had noticed her growing attraction to the king. The way JiYoung looked away when he mentioned making her his official spouse when their plan succeeds, indicates this is far from what she wants. She's currently consumed with jealousy, seeing how the king favors his chef. All her endeavors to drive a wedge between them have proven abortive, so she's willing to cross the line this time. The king relegated her to the back after JiYoung's arrival, dimming her control in the palace, as the king's favorite. Now, she not only wants to eliminate JiYoung, but also to punish the king for replacing her with JiYoung. Meanwhile, Prince Joseon's plan has always been to drive the king to fury, making him carry out a purge that would eventually lead to his deposition. JiYoung was glad that her influence had lightened the king and, therefore, reduced the possibility of a purge. Little did she know that she'd be used as a catalyst for this effect. Either someone in the kitchen had slipped in the poison, or it was administered to the young prince after the meal. The food was shared by the king, and was tested by the food tester, and they're both fine. So something must have happened before or after the meal. What's more, JiYoung was unable to deliver Bailong's warnings to the king. If you recall, he had overheard the envoy's talk with ENG, and knows that the king's uncle, Prince Joseon, is behind the rising coup. This was why he said, the edges of objects are harder to see. Meaning that something sinister, which the king is unaware of, is going on. He completed it with, and when you sleep, be sure to lock the latch securely. Meaning that the threat is closer than he thinks, someone close to him. Meanwhile, the king now suspects that he might have treachery on his hands. The recent events following the competition with the Mings should be enough of an eye-opener to him. Meanwhile, whose heart fluttered when the king asked JiYoung to promise not to get hurt, as her pain brings him greater pain. This clearly shows how he feels about her. However, JiYoung is holding back, knowing that she has to go back to her time. At first, she was happy when she received her new attire, but remembered that she still has to go back to her time, when she finds Manganrock. But then, you can see how she's integrated with the time, how she's come to care for Gilgwem and her kitchen staff, which will make it harder for her to leave, when the time comes. What's more, who would have thought that craftsman Chunsang also invented an airplane? Adding to his pressure cooker. At this point, call him the father of invention. Just as JiYoung wondered, I wonder how her time in the past has changed the future. Meanwhile, as mentioned earlier, Machu really went all out this time, endangering the life of a grand prince, just to eliminate JiYoung. Queen JiYoung went about this the wrong way. Instead of taking the matter to the king, as the father of the nation, to handle it, she decided to handle it herself, which is bound to cause disputes in the next episode. Despite saving the nation, poor JiYoung has to undergo torture, for what she doesn't know. All these are happening, while the king awaits her return, to their designated meeting place. After the first competition, the king had instructed Chae to retrieve JiYoung's gachu from the thieving Prince Joseon. He had asked her to meet at the garden, to surprise her with the gachu. However, he's about to learn of her torture, which will likely trigger him. He told JiYoung that her pain causes him greater pain, so seeing her in such a state will enrage him. In the preview for the next episode, he is seen confronting his stepmother. For Queen JiYoung to carry out such an act without informing the king, knowing that JiYoung was appointed by the king and is favored by him, suggests she suspects the king. Her son, the Grand Prince, is next in line if something happens to the king. This might be why she suspects the king and JiYoung of poisoning. However, the Queen Dowager has a different view. She had saved the day in the last episode, by revealing the envoy's deceits. How quickly the tables turned, bringing the envoy to his knees. She might be able to fish out Machu's deceit this time. If you recall, she's already suspicious of Prince Joseon, after learning that he'd given JiYoung's secret ingredient to the Mings. Meanwhile, JiYoung pleads with the king to prove her innocence. As things have already escalated, the king can't just demand her release, as this might cause political unrest in the palace. Just as cook Mansu had cut himself, to not carry out Machu's food-tainting order, there's no way JiYoung would harm someone with food. The king sets out to prove her innocence, with Chae by his side. Machu couldn't be more excited about the turn of events, as JiYoung endures torture and humiliation. However, the king is unrelenting in proving JiYoung's innocence, agitating Machu. To cover her tracks, Machu asks for the female physician, whom she had used, to be eliminated. But then, the king is faster, as the jester, Gong-gil, can be seen fighting with the physician. Through her, the king learns that Machu is behind it all. He confronts Machu, and instead of showing remorse, she asks the king to present evidence of her crime. Seeing as things aren't going the way she wanted, Machu makes her way to JiYoung's holding cell. This could be to gloat about her victory. But then, just as she did with Gong-gil's sister, and nearly did to Gil Jiang, her chief maid can be seen with her usual hairpin weapon, in JiYoung's holding cell. But then, seeing as the hand has a ring, this has to be someone of high status in the palace. The ending of the preview left the viewers anxious for the next episode, as there's only one reason why the king would look like this. However, this incident is bound to unite the king and JiYoung, achieving an opposite effect from what Machu wanted. JiYoung can be seen wearing the king's sleeping robe, as the king gives her what looks like a promise ring. But then, this isn't the end of their trials, as Prince Joseon devises more plans to achieve his aim. On a scale of 1 to 10, how anxious are you for the next episode? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this content, please give it a thumbs up, share it, subscribe, and turn on your notification bell for all things wonderfully K-drama. Thanks for watching, bye.